I bet you didn't know how much money is at stake in the pharmaceutical industry. The pharmaceutical industry is vast. It is one of the most profitable industries in the world. Global pharmaceutical revenues reached $1.42 trillion in 2021. This financial dominance allows for significant influence. It shapes healthcare policies and research priorities. However, this profit-driven model raises important ethical questions. Are companies prioritizing profits over patient well-being? How do financial incentives impact drug pricing and accessibility? These are critical questions with far-reaching consequences. This exploration delves into the complexities of the pharmaceutical world. We will examine its financial underpinnings and ethical challenges. We aim to understand how this powerful industry impacts global health. Our goal is to advocate for greater transparency, accountability, and patient-centered care. One of the most contentious aspects of the pharmaceutical industry is drug pricing. The prices of medications have been a topic of heated debate for many years, affecting millions of people globally. The cost of life-saving medications can be prohibitively expensive. For many individuals, especially those without adequate insurance, the high prices can mean the difference between life and death. This creates significant barriers to access for patients worldwide. Many are forced to make difficult choices, such as skipping doses, splitting pills, or forgoing treatment altogether due to the high costs. Pharmaceutical companies argue that high prices are necessary. They claim that the revenue generated from these prices is essential for funding the extensive research and development required to bring new drugs to market. They say they are needed to recoup the substantial costs of research and development. Developing a new drug can take years and cost billions of dollars, and companies need to ensure they can cover these expenses. However, critics argue that drug prices are often inflated. They point out that many pharmaceutical companies spend more on marketing and advertising than on research and development. This maximizes profits at the expense of patients. The high prices can lead to significant financial strain, forcing some to choose between essential medications and other basic needs like food and housing. The lack of transparency in drug pricing further exacerbates the issue. Patients and healthcare providers often have no clear understanding of why certain medications are priced the way they are. This makes it difficult to determine fair and affordable costs. Without transparency, it is challenging to hold pharmaceutical companies accountable for their pricing practices. This disparity between the cost of production and the price charged raises ethical concerns. Many believe that access to essential medications should be a basic human right, not a privilege for those who can afford it. It highlights the conflict between corporate profit and public health. The debate continues as to whether the current pricing models are sustainable or if they need to be reformed to prioritise patient care over profits. Addressing the issue of drug pricing is crucial. Policymakers, healthcare providers, and patient advocacy groups must work together to find solutions that ensure medications are affordable and accessible to all. We need to ensure that everyone has access to the medications they need, regardless of their financial situation. By working towards more transparent and fair pricing models, we can help improve health outcomes and reduce the financial burden on patients. The pharmaceutical industry's focus on profitability also influences research and development priorities. Companies are incentivized to develop drugs that generate high revenue. This often leads to a focus on treatments for chronic conditions. These treatments require ongoing medication, rather than cures that could eliminate the need for long-term drug use. This emphasis on profit-driven research can have detrimental consequences. It can divert resources away from developing treatments for neglected diseases. These diseases primarily affect impoverished populations with limited purchasing power. Furthermore, the pursuit of blockbuster drugs can lead to the over-medicalization of certain conditions. This may result in patients being prescribed medications they don't necessarily need. It is crucial to advocate for a more balanced approach to pharmaceutical research, one that prioritizes both profitability and patient well-being. Section 4, Ethical Concerns in Drug Development. Clinical trials and the approval process. The ethical dimensions of drug development are, complex and multifaceted. These dimensions encompass a wide range of issues, from the initial stages of research and development to the final approval and marketing of a new drug. Each step in this process presents its own set of ethical challenges that must be carefully navigated to ensure the safety and well-being of patients. Clinical trials, essential for assessing the safety and efficacy of new drugs, are vulnerable to bias and manipulation. These trials are the cornerstone of modern medicine, providing the data needed to determine whether a new treatment is safe and effective. However, the integrity of these trials can be compromised by various factors, including financial incentives, pressure to produce positive results, and the inherent complexities of conducting rigorous scientific research. Pharmaceutical companies have a vested interest in ensuring that their drugs are perceived favorably. This interest can sometimes lead to practices that prioritize profit over patient safety. For example, companies may engage in selective reporting, where only positive trial results are published while negative or inconclusive results are hidden. This practice can create a misleading picture of a drug's true efficacy and safety profile. This can lead to selective reporting of trial results, downplaying adverse effects, and targeting patient populations more likely to respond positively to treatment. Such practices not only undermine the scientific validity of clinical trials, but also pose significant risks to patients who may be exposed to ineffective or harmful treatments. Ensuring transparency and accountability in the reporting of clinical trial results is therefore crucial. Furthermore, the drug approval process itself is not without its critics. This process, which is designed to ensure that new drugs are safe and effective before they reach the market, can be influenced by various external factors. Critics argue that regulatory agencies may be subject to political and economic pressures that can affect their decision-making. Regulatory agencies, tasked with safeguarding public health, are often accused of being too cosy with the industry they regulate. This close relationship can lead to conflicts of interest, where the interests of the pharmaceutical industry are prioritised over those of the public. Such conflicts can undermine the credibility of the regulatory process and erode public trust in the safety and efficacy of new drugs. This raises concerns about conflicts of interest and the potential for undue influence. When regulatory agencies and pharmaceutical companies have overlapping interests, there is a risk that decisions may be made based on financial or political considerations rather than scientific evidence. This can result in the approval of drugs that are not adequately tested or that have significant safety concerns. Ensuring the integrity of clinical trials and the independence of regulatory agencies is paramount. This involves implementing robust oversight mechanisms, promoting transparency in the decision-making process, and fostering a culture of ethical responsibility within both the pharmaceutical industry and regulatory bodies. By doing so, we can help to protect patient safety and maintain the integrity of the drug development process. It is crucial to safeguard patient safety and maintain public trust in the drug development process. Public confidence in the healthcare system depends on the belief that new treatments are thoroughly tested and that regulatory decisions are made in the best interest of patients. By addressing ethical concerns and ensuring rigorous oversight, we can work towards a more transparent, accountable, and trustworthy drug development process. Section 5. The Opioid Crisis. A case study in pharmaceutical influence and accountability. The devastating opioid crisis serves as a stark reminder of the potential consequences of unchecked pharmaceutical influence. This crisis has affected millions of lives, leaving a trail of heartbreak and loss in its wake. Families have been torn apart, communities have been devastated, and the healthcare system has been overwhelmed by the sheer scale of the epidemic. The aggressive marketing of highly addictive painkillers, coupled with misleading claims about their safety and efficacy, contributed to the widespread overprescription of opioids. Pharmaceutical companies employed sophisticated marketing strategies to persuade doctors to prescribe these drugs, often downplaying the risks of addiction and overdose. This led to a dramatic increase in the availability and use of opioids, creating a fertile ground for addiction to take root. This resulted in a public health emergency, countless lives lost to addiction and overdose. Emergency rooms across the country have been inundated with overdose patients, and the number of opioid-related deaths has skyrocketed. The impact on families has been profound, with many losing loved ones to this relentless epidemic. Funerals for overdose victims have become all too common, a tragic reminder of the human cost of this crisis. The opioid crisis exposed the devastating consequences of prioritising corporate profits over patient well-being. Pharmaceutical companies reaped enormous profits from the sale of opioids, while the human toll continued to mount. Public outrage has grown, leading to protests and demands for accountability. News reports have highlighted the role of these companies in fueling the crisis, bringing the issue to the forefront of public consciousness. It underscores the urgent need for greater accountability within the pharmaceutical industry. Corporate executives must be held responsible for their actions, and there must be a concerted effort to ensure that such a crisis never happens again. Lawmakers are now debating new regulations to curb the influence of pharmaceutical companies and to protect public health. These discussions are crucial in shaping a future where patient safety is prioritised over profits. Holding pharmaceutical companies responsible for their role in fueling the opioid epidemic is crucial. Legal battles are being fought in courtrooms across the country, with many seeking justice for the victims of this crisis. Protesters continue to demand accountability, calling for stricter penalties and more rigorous oversight of the pharmaceutical industry. The fight for justice is ongoing, and it is essential to ensure that those responsible are held to account. It is also important to implement stricter regulations and ethical guidelines to prevent similar crises from occurring in the future. Government officials are working on new policies to regulate the marketing and distribution of pharmaceuticals, aiming to prevent another public health disaster. Pharmaceutical companies must also adopt more ethical practices, prioritizing patient safety and well-being. By learning from the past and taking decisive action, we can build a safer and healthier future for all. Thank you for watching. If you found this video informative, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more content.